Evening, everybody. Welcome to Blockchain Chat. We're going to start in a couple of minutes, so feel free to get your beverages and anything else you need before we start. Hey, everybody, welcome. We're going to start in a couple of minutes, so get your anything you need, relax, and we're going to have a good time tonight. Our conversation tonight is around blockchain browsers. So some of the things that you want to know with regards to that. So should be a good discussion, very educational topic. Some of the benefits of blockchain with regards to how it will affect us as individuals, as well as business people, consumers, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to get started in 2 minutes. Okay. And if anybody wants to be a panelist today, just let me know. You know me, I will make you a panelist in a heartbeat. Hey, Eric. You're on mute.
Okay, I'm muted myself.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing? I love your hair.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
About to get it redone on Friday. No,
Okay.
next Friday. Next Friday. So
Got
we'll have a week and a half more of this hair before we switch it up again.
it. Got it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I have enjoyed this hair, I have to admit. I have enjoyed it. Yes. Yes. So we are going to have a topic tonight that I know you'll enjoy because you did a lot of research on the Brave browser a couple of months ago. So there are other browsers there as well. So I found a really good article for us to review to talk about blockchain browsers and future of blockchain browsers. And one major glaring issue that I see with them that nobody, at least in the articles that I read, nobody's talking about this. So
interesting. I can't wait to hear that. Yeah.
You know me, I'll look at something and go, but.
Yeah, I remember, Sheree, it was funny. You were one of the first people, and this is especially early on, when crazy over tokens, you were like, okay, wait a minute. What about the equity in these companies? Now the more I've read, that's where a lot of everyone really circled back to. I was listening to a talk with on security tokens, and that's where their focus is on the equity of these companies rather than on their tokens. So
see, listen to the black chick here, right?
Yeah.
You come to BBC and you get what you need to get. You need to
Yes,
get
I
it
know.
early too.
Yeah, I was like, Sheree said that almost 2 years ago.
Look, they'll be chasing us. Well, it was
Yeah,
common sense though. I'm like,
yeah,
wait a second now. I mean, yeah, you can get tokens, but no,
it's
these
true.
companies going to be sold for billions of dollars. You want equity in the companies. So yes, of
True.
course.
Yeah,
So,
I'm waiting to see because I saw where Serena Williams was. She's an investor in Coinbase,
mhm.
but I'm just waiting to see who acquires Coinbase.
Someone's going to have to acquire them because they're bleeding too much money. It's inevitable. They're going to do a GitHub type of thing, and
Right.
someone's going to buy them because they really are the super highway into, at least as of now, they're
Mhm.
the super highway into crypto.
Yeah,
So someone's going to buy them just for that, and they're going to pay billions of dollars for it. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I see that happening too.
Yeah. So let's get started tonight then. Want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We've got a great topic. We're talking about blockchain browsers. If any of you want to be on the panel, no pressure, but you can come up. And we have an article that we're going to read about different blockchain browsers. I I believe that there's a big gaping hole with this that I haven't seen anyone else talk about. And I'm glad Eric is here because we'll see what he has to say about that. Um, but before we do that, just want to give you a couple of announcements. Number one is Noficia Morcel and Dr. Keisha Waddell have worked on the supply chain course, which is dropping momentarily. And we will let everybody know when that course drops. So proud of both of them and the work they have done with that. And if supply chain is your thing, you want to learn a little bit more, we are going to have a 1-week special for all of our BBC members and people on our email list if you want to get that course early. So stay tuned for that. Number two, Eric is here. He is leading up the virtual conference that we're having in November. And that virtual conference is going to be about 21st century business fundraising. And a part of it is going to be tokenization, but we're also going to talk about opportunity zones and crowdfunding and really giving us a view of what's happening so that we can position ourselves in our businesses to get the funds that we need. But we are a blockchain group, so we'll also talk about tokenization of assets and how we believe that these laws are all going to merge together. And he or she who can educate the masses, especially our masses, about that, stands to do very, very well. So if you are not part of the Crowdfunding Professional Association, there were about 13 of us that joined that group where we're studying the laws of crowdfunding and things like that, and you want to be a part of that, let me know, info@blackblockchainconsultants.com to talk to me about that. Number three, 2020, our conference in Atlanta is going to be happening February 16th and 17th, 2020. We are finishing up getting the contracts for the location that we're going to be at, but it is going to be February 16th and 17th, 2020. That is a Sunday and Monday. The Monday is President's Day. We're going to give people plenty of time to ask for time off. And we're also looking for 50 people who are willing to put up $149 each so that we can secure the location for those 2 days. So we won't ask you for any other fees for those 2 days. You will get lunch and breakfast on Monday. And that'll be your price to get in for both days is $149 if you agree to pay between now and the end of September. So I've just got to figure out a place. I'm trying not to do PayPal because of the fees, but might end up doing PayPal. If not, I'll do Zelle because they don't charge fees. Oh, and then I haven't forgotten, we're doing a session for our BBC members on making money through Black Blockchain Consultants. We have hired somebody to start working with us to talk to various blockchain platforms in regards to the services that we're providing. If you want to know what services we're providing, you can go to reachbci.com. That's reachbci.com. Audrey Taylor has done a great job on the website. So we have decided to be a big fish in a small pond, and we are providing documentation services, anything from help center articles to explainer videos to short user training manuals, user experience information for these blockchain platforms. And everyone that we've spoken with IBM, Walmart, other companies, they're all saying, wow, nobody else is offering these services. Nobody else is doing this. So we have a list of over 1,000 CEOs and executives at various blockchain platforms. And we're going to start hitting the ground running with speaking with them over the next couple of weeks. We've got some training to do this week and get our ducks in a row. And then we're going to get started with that. So lots happening. We're going to have a session where we're going to go down, drill down with regards to how you can make money through Black Blockchain Consultants. If you are a BBC member, if you want to be a BBC member, blackblockchainconsultants.com is where you can find us. Click join and you'll get all the information. Eric,
yes.
Anything to add to my announcements?
No, that's it. I mean, you pretty much rolled everything out once again, and I do want to reiterate, just for the virtual conference, that's going to be an exciting time. Love, please, everyone, just because we're going to look at the intersection of those things that Sheree mentioned, of tokenization of assets, of crowdfunding and opportunity zones, and look at those intersections and how those all tie together, and then we're going to kind of work and, kind of talk our way through how we can leverage each of them together for a really great result. So yes, everyone, please join us on that. So.
Right, and it's not just for people who care about blockchain. This is for any entrepreneur that that's going to want to raise funding in the next 5 years. So, definitely they want to be on it so that they can hear some of the lessons and position themselves appropriately. So with that, we're going to get started with the lesson of the day, which is all about the decentralized web and blockchain browsers. And this is a story from May 2017, but they had a paragraph in here that I thought really, it did a good job of explaining to me some of the basics of why we would want decentralized web, even though, like I said, I have my monkey wrench in here that I'm going to talk about later on. But this is an article from Forbes, and it's saying here, instead of Google, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn owning your data, imagine a world in which you control the data about yourself and reveal only what is minimally necessary when required. It would be the web equivalent of proving to a bouncer only that you're older than 21, instead of also handing over your birth date, address, and whether you've elected to be an organ donor. This is what I really like, the second paragraph here. Instead of people in North Korea typing CNN.com into their browser and being redirected to a website of North Korea's choosing, imagine a world in which North Korea would have to take over the Bitcoin network in order to keep someone from seeing the actual CNN.com. I see it both ways. I see this as a way for North Koreans to look out into the outside world, and I also see it as a way for us in the United States or outside to look in to these countries, or for us to look into the private prisons. Our Black men are saying there's a lot of things that's happening in these private prisons. Wouldn't it be interesting? Now, I don't know if there's a way to do that. I'm just throwing it out, in terms of taking a broader view of what are some of the privacy concerns and the walls that need to actually be taken down. And Eric, just chime in here.
I mean, well, once again, and it starts early on with privacy and privacy of data and who owns the data itself. I don't know if anyone has gotten a chance to watch that Netflix documentary, The Great Hack.
Yeah, I looked at it this weekend, but I just looked at the name. I didn't have a chance.
Well, watch it when you get a chance, because it's, as much as it talks about Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, it also talks about data itself on all of us. I think they said, I remember the documentary, I think they said that Cambridge Analytica was able to get 5,000 data points on each individual voter, which you're looking at yourself and you go, well, wait a minute, like what? I didn't think that was important, that I go and shop here or that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm, but it all is. They're building profiles.
Exactly, and it's building a profile. And what we do see in cases like that is it being used to manipulate. And there's one thing of, like, no one should be manipulated on any level, but we've seen the manipulation on a massive level where, you have voters, and it was funny in the article, in the documentary, like they detail, there's certain voters that they would look at that they would say, this person can be swung the other way. So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to feed them with these articles, with these fake news articles and that sort of thing to push them to the other side. And, to see that happen, and then to see, elections, swing from one side or the other, that's pretty scary stuff.
Yeah. Or to suppress the vote as well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
to say this person is not likely to go out and vote unless
Mm-hmm.
they know there's something on the ballot that's for them. And that could be positive or negative,
Yeah.
This person doesn't really look at the news that often, all of those things. The other thing is, if you look at Black Twitter or Black YouTube or Black social media, there's this thing out now called Black identity extremists.
Mm-hmm.
And what they could do is, now I'm getting extremely political here, but I might as well. They could say, oh, because you go to Black America Web and you look at this Black political website and that Black political website, now all of a sudden you're on a watch list.
Yes. That's true. And that's the other side of it. One of the things that was really interesting in that is they talked about, just the Russian hacking, but that for some of the Black Lives Matter events,
Mm-hmm.
those were actual events that
Mm-hmm.
they created and people showed up to for marches that were organized.
Yeah, that weren't organized.
Yeah, and there's nobody and everyone, but when you start aggregating and sending people multiple articles, it starts to become like a drum pattern in their lives.
Right.
And then, at some point they're, they aren't thinking at all that they're being manipulated by someone in a foreign country,
Mm-hmm.
on the other side who has completely no connection, no empathy.
Ties.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all to the issues that they're, that we're dealing with. So,
right. Well, I'm getting to a point where I'm not trusting people with not even a picture. Like, I need to see a video of you. I do. I need to see a video of you, and I need to know that you are truly, who I'm expecting to see on the other end. Otherwise, I'm taking everything that I see with a grain of salt, in regards to this. But this final sentence here, this is the world some people are calling Web 3.0, and it's built on blockchains. So everything with regards to decentralized name, decentralized identities, decentralized storage, all of this information is, there are people that are working to make these things decentralized. So then the second thing, this is actually what got me thinking about this as a topic, is because IBM, who's filing a patent for everything, is now doing a blockchain-based web browser. And there's not much information in regards to this web browser, but there was something in here. So what they're doing is they are collecting pre-specified information from web browsing sessions. The information is then transferred to a network of peer-to-peer nodes for collection and storage. Information collection depends on the type of browsing experience chosen. Browsing on a work computer versus a personal browser would demand different settings. Types of potentially storable session information would include website one visit, bookmarks, task performance, geolocation, plug-in installation, and security patches. The company states a blockchain-based browser affords a system for storing browser information such that privacy is preserved and places privacy in the hands of the user rather than a third party. One potential use case the document includes is an attack on a browser's computer, a computer's browser. If secured by blockchain technology, a viable backup of all user information is available. So a couple of things I see within this. I'm going to take these two paragraphs right here, and Eric, you let me know what you think. Mm-hmm. I want to reread this sentence here. Company states that a blockchain-based browser affords a system for storing browsing information such that privacy is preserved and places privacy in the hands of the user rather than a third party. So now what's happening is Google owns every time you put in any type of, request, search, right? Or Yahoo or Bing or whatever you're using. These browsers are saying, no, you'll own that information. It'll be private, and it is ultimately yours to decide what you want to do with this information. That's one of the key things that they're saying. I started scratching my head about this one for one reason. What happens when the law wants to know what you have been browsing, a la Jeffrey Epstein? Mm-hmm. Do not, in my opinion, let me just say in my opinion, I would not believe that these privacy settings would be maintained. Because at the end of the day, even though we're saying, these things are decentralized, there was a lot happening with Coinbase where for years people were buying Bitcoins and Bitcoin was going up, 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 up. And now what happens? You have Coinbase having to hand over their records. And yes, they've only handed over some, but don't think the US government isn't going to go in and get all of them. And yes, you're going to have all this, you're going to have different nodes having this browsing information. I just see a red flag here with people thinking that they can do whatever they want with these browsers. The Silk Road was something else. So for those of you who aren't familiar, when was that? It was 2014, something like that, 2013, 2014?
2013, 2014, around there.
Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar with what the Silk Road is, there was a time when Bitcoin was really, really underground and people were using Bitcoin to buy prostitutes, guns, drugs, all sorts of stuff. And the Silk Road was the big bust that the federal government had in order to find these underground networks of illegal activity. That's why so many people were scared to get, so many legit people were scared to get into Bitcoin because of all of the underhanded stuff. Well, all of these people thought, I could never be discovered. I'm doing all this stuff in private. And lo and behold, it comes to light. So that was the really big thing that I got from that specific sentence. I'm going to throw it over to you, Eric, to respond.
Now, here's the only thing that I did say when I looked at that, and no, and Sheree, you're absolutely right. And then especially when we see this horrible things like with the Epstein case and that coming out, and yeah, it was crazy. And I saw something recently, where they looked and he had bought these books from Amazon that were dealing with a lot of the stuff that he was involved in. Now, what I will say with this is there's still Tor available. So he could, and I don't know how the FBI handles that, because the Tor browser will allow you to browse in anonymity. So I look at that and I go, I wonder how that works with them. Now, what IBM is proposing with their browser is just the data points of the data being collected itself, that, just like you just said, Google shouldn't, where Google's storing all of that now, that's all of what they own, where now it would be decentralized and then you would be owning it. We're in an interesting time right now with the data itself that, to me, and I read this book, it was by an author, his name is Yuval Harari. It's called 21 Rules for the 21st Century. But he talked about data itself, that it's such a new development that we have no rules, we have no pre-existing rules to help us understand how we need to handle this going forward. Just like what you just said, well, wait a minute. What if we're trying to protect for the public good and you have a person out there, like where does that, how far does that go with them? But at the same time, we've seen things with, the NSA where there's surveillance and you go, well, wait, why are you doing that? Like, that's not acceptable either. So it's an experiment to me that we're all figuring out as we're going along in this present age. And yes, we can take positions on it. And, dig our heels in the sand and say, this is what I believe, this is the way it should work. And that's it. But we will have those cases, like, the Epstein one is one where, man, but I'm pretty sure that he probably did use some sort of VPN and he was going through and doing God knows what,
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. I mean, these things come to light. So, so Jeffrey is saying, read Bitcoin Billionaire's book. So thank you, Jeffrey. Let us know what's in Bitcoin Billionaires. Tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, because someone mentioned that the other day. Yeah, please let us know, Jeff.
Yeah. So, I just want people to really take a step back and think, this is IBM's browser, just like it's Google's browser.
I'm saying the same thing.
You gotta think it's IBM's browser. IBM has put probably billions of dollars, if we were to add it up, into this blockchain play. They want every single dollar they can possibly get out of it. They're expected to have tokens on this. So, it's going to be we call it a security. Is it STO? No.
Yeah, well, but I think this is going to be a utility token. It seems like the way
it's a utility token, yes.
Yeah, the way they're going to utilize it. Now, I do have a question about this, okay? And Sheree, we can look at that, and then we can kind of look at Brave and kind of compare the two. Because one thing that I did notice with this is, and maybe this is in addition. I mean, Brave is already here. This is already what they're trying to do. But maybe this is an addition that IBM did not mention here. And that is a point of your data and companies, if it's Target out there or whomever, should they be paying us to use our data? IBM doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that, no. It has the history. So, you're saying basically if something happens and your current computer is compromised, then you can go and get all of your backup information from, the blockchain, network that's out there. I'm kind of like, I don't know if do I really need that? So, but I wonder, because one thing is IBM did not have any comments. Usually they'll have someone come and do a public press release or comment. They didn't have any comments with this patent, so I wonder if there are other features that they're thinking of that they don't want to make public yet. Because it just seemed very Me Too-ish when I read the articles about it. But talk about Brave, because some people may not know what Brave is and why it's unique.
Okay, so Brave was started with the same gentleman who created Mozilla Firefox, that browser. So it is one of the browsers that allows, and it does have a utility token, and it's kind of the same model where kind of what we've been talking about in this age that we're in right now is flipping the side where, like right now with Google, we are the product. You know, and for all of these companies, we are the product. Anytime you're going in and you're logging in anywhere, you're the product. So they are making money off of your data. Brave wants to turn that around, where instead companies would be published by Brave, and actually our YouTube channel is published, certified by Brave. But they would then pay you, the viewer, to view ads.
Right.
That is, yes, and that is a different model where it's, you know, we're still in this internet experiment where you kind of look at it over the last, you know, 15, 20 years where we have, you know, I mean, Google, I mean, my goodness, you know, Google's like an entire separate nation, you might as well say. I mean, no one can stop them in any way, no one can shut them down, but they have such a first mover advantage where they have now done the internet in a certain way where most of us have kind of just, you know, you know, maybe just unconsciously said, okay, that's what it is, no problem. But then we have now over the last maybe 4 to 5 years have come to a different sort of consciousness about this. And this is where, you know, you have someone like Brave coming on now and say, no, you shouldn't be the product. No, you shouldn't be made merchandise off, where these companies take your data, collect your data, sell it, utilize it for product development, for R&D, and you're not getting anything, you know, off of that. You're not being paid off of that. No, they should pay you for that. And that's where I'm wondering to see now. It's almost like, once again, where, yes, we have Brave. I think there's another company, a Norwegian company, and now we have IBM, where will this now begin to shift that conversation, you know, on a really, like a real, you know, much grander scale? I don't know, you know. I don't know. I mean, I utilize the Brave browser. I like it. I don't do it all the time, just to be honest. You know, sometimes that, you know,
you have to teach yourself a new habit if you're going to use Brave or anything else. So I actually have an article with several of the Web 3.0 browsers. So we'll go over that as well. So you may have heard of BAT, BAT. So the BAT tokens, that's the Brave tokens. That's being used. If people are interested in finding out more about that. And you do have the right to, they will pay you to view ads, and then you also have control over your data and you get to release certain parts of your data. One thing that I'm thinking of, I'm going to look at it from the business point of view, is right now, we as small business owners through Facebook and all of these other companies, we have the ability to take massive amounts of data called big data and make strategic decisions about our businesses because of this. So I'll throw this out as a monkey wrench to you, Eric. If we are, you know, small business owners still, you know, but we are used to going on Facebook and Twitter and places like that in order to see what's happening
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, let's just use the extreme, and I don't think the extreme will happen, but now all of a sudden everybody's got their data private. And, the only time I see any information about my specific product or what's happening is when people want to yell at me because, we got the order wrong or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you see that as well? How would let's say, let me take that. How would an Amazon or some of these large companies even deal with that? Because now they're flooded with all sorts of data points, and then all of a sudden, we're trying to get to, okay, you're going to have minimal data again on people.
See, now that'd be interesting because you just mentioned Amazon, which I see them. I mean, they would be like the last. They would be the last fort to fall.
Well, they would be, because
Yeah.
people go on Amazon in order to buy stuff and things like that.
Exactly, and that's a major part of their business model.
Mm-hmm.
And however you want to feel about it, a lot of people feel that that's a value added to them when
Mm-hmm.
they have bought certain products or something like that, and you see, hey, the majority of customers who bought this also bought this product, and people go, oh, great, thanks, and they kind of do that. I mean, sometimes, most of the time for me, I never do it, like I buy what I wanted to buy, and then I just get out. But that is, see, that to me is just going to change e-commerce as we know it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also makes Amazon, in my opinion, more valuable, because if you're not going to be getting data from these traditional places, then whomever has the data, all of a sudden if these businesses are going to pay a premium for it as well. So yeah, I mean,
I do have to say, Cherie, like one of the things that I will say is, and we've talked about this a lot with blockchain, we've used the term transformational, revolutionary. This is one of those times in which we start seeing it applied, and it could potentially do that.
mm-hmm.
It could potentially really have that transformational effect where, yes, it flips it around. I think it would be great. I mean, I would be all for it. I do, it's just me. Now, I do get it, especially for small business owners. Yes, they rely. That's a great, just to go into the Facebook marketplace and just to kind of see what everything that's happening in the workplace. Yeah, it's a great value add for a lot of people, for a lot of small business owners. But like e-commerce could very much be on the way of changing. I've heard Mark Moss mention this a lot, that he believes that we are in the massive global economic trend, well, this trend overall of decentralization.
Mm-hmm.
That is not just a kind of buzzword, but it's a much larger trend that we're in. And I don't mean a trend that kind of lasts for the next 2 or 3 years, but I'm talking about like a 50 or 100-year experiment.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see if and when the tsunami happens, because right now we are comfortable with where we are. Yeah, Amazon knows everything about us. They know everything we buy. And the more and more retailers close, the more Amazon knows about us, or vice versa. But yet we're still participating in the economy. And even with the massive data breaches and the Social Security numbers taken, and the health benefits, healthcare information taken, and things like that, there are pieces of information that come out, I would say, every 4 to 6 months, where such and such a data breach has happened, and 10 million Americans, 20 million Americans. We still are in this. I mean, very few people, unless they've had their personal identity taken and their credit and everything destroyed, have I seen people really say, I want to opt out of this current system. So a part of me is like, well, I don't know if there is something that really needs to happen where all of a sudden you would have a tsunami of people, or over the next 100 years, if nothing major happens, if people are going to still be complacent.
Okay, but let me say something about that too, because and I kind of mentioned that in the group when I put, we just had to see, we had the Capital One hack, but the Capital One hack happened in March. They just told us about this a few weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, or something like that. But the hack actually happened in March. If you go read the article, and this is where people like me read it, and I'd like to get into the actual mechanics of the way things are written. And the person says, well, the way we look at it, no damage has occurred, no leaks or anything like that. That's what they basically said. I can't remember his actual phrasing, but what he basically said was, yes, the data breach did happen. It happened in March. We're just letting you know now, but it didn't affect anyone. Well, that's not true, because I can tell you one person for sure that was affected, and that's me. Yes, because
But did you close your Capital One account? See?
No, see, I didn't. Because that, okay.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So even though it really affected you, you still didn't close your accounts for whatever reasons. I'm not judging you. I'm just talking about human nature here.
True.
You multiply that by, let's take something that would affect half the country. Let's say the IRS is hacked. We can't leave the IRS, right?
No, right.
Or something major. Amazon is hacked, and out of the 6 billion people in the world, they got the accounts and the information for 4 billion people. We're not leaving Amazon. So at least, not in a tsunami, I don't think. I'm just basing it on human nature here. So going back to Web 3.0, because we're talking about the browsers tonight. It's my theory that you will have outliers of people that are using these browsers. I did read where Google and a couple of the other big boys are playing around with blockchain-based browsers. I don't see a scenario right now where the majority of people are going to be using it. Cherie, don't see it. And we can be controversial. Y'all are quiet in the chat. I mean, you can let me know in the chat what you think. If you think I'm wrong, please come on the panel and tell me I'm wrong.
So wait a minute, Cherie, so you don't foresee, where the majority of users would be using like an IBM decentralized browser? You think people would, most of the time they're going to stay with Google?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Even though the paid ads are annoying, for people to change their habit, and again, we talked about Brave, right? Mm-hmm. You would have to actively think, I've got to change my habit from going to Google to going to Brave, or going to the IBM browser or something like that. Human nature, consumers, I don't see doing that. Now, companies, maybe companies would do it. So IBM is I think IBM with this browser is targeting companies, and they're going to target companies that want backups of whatever, or they want an immutable way of knowing what their employees are doing in case the employee acts up and they want to fire the person. They can say, well, we've got this blockchain record of everywhere that the employee has gone, since they were employed here, and all the stuff they weren't doing that they were supposed to be doing. It's, again, my theory based on what I'm reading. If Google all of a sudden has an option of, or just sets up a decentralized browser, then maybe, if it's not really a choice, if it's just I'm going on Google and today it's decentralized. But you also have to think in regards to these big companies and what these big companies will be giving up in terms of the data that they're collecting.
Okay, see.
Do you think they would give it up without a fight?
Okay, here's an interesting point. And Jeffrey just mentioned something, and he mentioned the California Consumer Privacy Act.
Mm-hmm.
And January 21st, 2020 is going to, this is when it comes into effect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that affords, and Jeffrey, you can comment if I'm incorrect here on my numbers, but I think it affords, if your data has been breached, you can sue for up to $750 per
Mm-hmm.
person. Now, let me tell you why that's interesting. Okay, and yeah, lucky me, I got, data breach with Capital One, also data breach with Equifax too.
Mm-hmm.
So now I did go through that whole thing as soon as it happened, where as soon as they provided the opportunity, where you can go in, file in the claim, and they'll pay you, what is it, $125 or whatever. Okay, but you see what happened. All of the information now has come back. The Equifax is saying, well, we're overwhelmed with this, and you're very unlikely to be paid anywhere close to $125.
It's $125. Like,
I know, but see, this is what I'm Cherie, this is what I'm thinking. I'm saying the same thing. Like, wait a minute, are you guys kidding me? Like 100, like really? Okay, and now there and here were the options: either $125 check they could mail out to you, or you could get what was it, 4 years or 8 years of credit monitoring.
Oh God.
I know, it's so ridiculous. And then I watch, and it's so different because us being in this space, we see like we've all been red pilled, so we see everything different. And I'm watching this, and there was one of these guys, oh my goodness, he was one of these, I can't remember, he's one of these government officials. He was like, well, that's a really valuable service, so everyone should start to really take a look at it. And then, but you know what's funny? I get an email right after this from Credit Karma.
Mm-hmm.
It says, hey, the breach happened.
Were you hacked this past week?
Yes, like you already have it, so you don't need this. So it's so funny.
God.
I saw that email and I laughed. They sent that, said, you don't need this, so just want to let you know we already got your back on this. And I'm just going, see, this is what I mean by we're in the experiment itself. And especially with that now, I look at it now and going, okay, well, wait a minute. If Equifax, if they can't cough this up and they can't do it, is Capital One going to be able to do it? Like,
so in my opinion, you won't get major change without a tsunami of people requiring it. Either they're going to have to require the government, and it'll have to be the federal government to put legislation in, or we're going to have to hit them in their pockets and, a massive group of people leave. Now, I don't think that'll happen, and this is part of the reason why I'm looking at this objectively and asking, what else is Web 3.0 from a browser point of view going to give us? What is the benefit that I could see where I'm like, yeah, I could see somebody using these blockchain browsers for that purpose. So I was looking around for like the benefits. Now you will get people who don't want to see ads and they'll go.
Hold on, Cherie. Before you go there.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to go back to that point. Okay, and I'm going to tell you this really quick story, real quick. I met with one of my songwriters just recently. We sat down and had lunch with him, and he was in Australia. And he said, and we were eating lunch at this place or whatever, and he wasn't going to finish his food. And he said, I said, hey, David, are you going to take that with you? And he goes, yeah. He goes, hey, do you want something funny, Eric? He goes, I just left. I was in Australia a couple weeks ago. I just left. And he goes, we were at a restaurant, me and my wife. There was a lot of food. We asked to take it with us. And it's a rule in Australia that you cannot take a doggy bag. You cannot take food from a restaurant. No.
Wow.
No, you can't, because the restaurant is liable that if you take it home and you leave it out on the counter or whatever, and then you go and you eat it, and you get sick from it because you know, didn't refrigerate it properly or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you are then liable to then sue the restaurant.
Wow.
And my point to this, when you made the point about, you know, with companies, would we get to the point now when we start seeing like Equifax and they can't afford, and they're acting like, oh, we can't afford to do this or whatever, would it then be where companies would say, you know what, it's a liability for us to start holding everybody's data. Let them have it. Let them have it. Let us, like, you know, like, it's a liability because, you know what, we're not going to be able to just pay these massive claims if something happens and we get hacked. So you know what, let's find a way in which they are equally responsible. So,
I think if the government enforced the fines, then yes. If the government won't enforce the fines, then we end up the same situation you did, where they say, we'll pay you 125, and then, oh, we're not going to pay you 125. Or you've got to, no, what they'll probably do is say, you've got to complete 10,000 pieces of documentation
yes, I
to
agree.
get $125, and you make a lot more than that's worth, and me too. You know, we're just like, you know, forget it, keep your 125. I got other things to do. So, you know, yeah. So one of the things that I started Googling was the benefits of the blockchain browser. And I'm still looking around for a benefit where I'm like, yeah, you know, people would want that benefit for that specific purpose. I do think the privacy thing, you will have some people that want the privacy thing. And I'm not saying that everybody is going to want the privacy for nefarious reasons, but you will have certain people, just like the Silk Road, that, you know, will try to use these browsers for nefarious reasons. And I believe that that's going to get broken up as soon as, you know, the FBI cyber unit gets wind of it and they start poking their head around. You know, no, I'm not buying that. So, well, we got another 10 minutes left, so I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay.
Really quickly, so that I can show you this here. This is from Cointelegraph, blockchain browsers, how DLT could affect web surfing. So, and this is from, I think this is from a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, July 5th, 2019. So they talk here about the appearance of blockchain tech can be compared with the emergence of internet at the initial stages of its development. Users were cautious about a decentralized system and failed to understand many of its subtleties. But just as firms opened up to the internet, almost all corporations are now working on integrating blockchain into their processes, which is true. They are working on integrating blockchain. Not sure about blockchain Web 3.0 yet. We'll see. Blockchain browsers. And there are some reasons for this trend. With the acceleration of data transfers, globalization, and the amount of information, the security questions concerning personal data are becoming more acute for users. Personal information is becoming valuable and thus monetized. Most can recall a series of scandals involving Facebook and Google, which have been plagued by allegations of misusing the data of millions of users. Therefore, the idea of Web 3.0, which would provide people with control over their content and digital identity, is gradually gaining popularity. Traditional internet browsers are still the gateway to internet for users, but will they retain their place in the new order? So this article continues on, and I like this article because it talks about the different blockchain browsers that are coming about. So they have here the Opera browser officially launched a blockchain browser called Opera Touch. And a distinctive feature of the browser is the presence of all the necessary infrastructure to work with Web 3.0. In particular, the program is equipped with a built-in cryptocurrency wallet and provides support services for decentralized applications working on Ethereum. The Opera browser allows users to search blockchain apps via URLs and has a built-in VPN. However, multiple other platforms already have different and established solutions. So I think for this, you have to be hardcore into blockchain. This is not something that is going to be mainstream the way that it is. Again, my opinion. I'm looking for a browser that's going to be mainstream, as you know, we're reading this.
Okay.
And you can hop in at any time, Eric.
Yeah.
So then there's Brave browser and Bat Reward. So we talked about Brave and what it is. The browser removes ad banners and block pop-ups. In addition, it is integrated with a system by which users are compensated with Bat coins for watching ads that have passed the browser's screening. For these purposes, a crypto wallet is integrated into the browser. And in January 2019, they had 5.5 million users, according to developers. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, no, I was going to say, see, this is what I believe. It's funny. This could be, this will be the browser wars that we are just.
Browser wars, I like that.
I mean, because we are just starting there. So IBM, yes, has thrown their hat into the ring. But I think we are trending this way, and I do think we are trending this way.
Trending versus mass adoption, though. So, do I see it as a trend? Yes. Do I see it as mass adoption? Not yet. Or I don't see a benefit where mass adoption, where your grandmother, your mother, would hop onto this.
Okay. Yes, you're right. I mean, but then at the same time, I mean, I'm pretty sure my mom, my 86-year-old mom, I'm pretty sure she goes and pays almost all of her bills either mail or check. Like my mom does that kind of stuff. So I have to say this: we will always have segments of the population.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were always geared towards, traditional things the way they've always, I mean, that's just human nature. Sometimes people just don't like change. So
yeah, well, even thinking about Facebook versus Instagram. So there was a time when Facebook was for older people, and I put that in quotes, and Instagram was for younger people, right? And now you see mass adoption where older people, again in quotes, are using Instagram. So that's what I'm looking at it as. Like, one thing that they do have in here that I think is interesting is they're saying with Brave, an agreement was made with the Taiwanese smartphone manufacturer HTC. Brave will be the default browser for the HTC Exodus, the world's first integrated blockchain phone for decentralized apps. If Brave were to do a deal with iPhone or with Android, then you would convince me. You would convince me just because of this. Then I would say, okay, it's the default,
Yeah,
but
I'm just saying, I think that we are moving here. I think that we're moving here. And honestly, I'm just saying, because I start looking at everything in the zeitgeist, how it's all working. Even that Netflix documentary, you may look at it and go, yes, a certain amount of people are going to see it, a certain amount of people aren't. But people all of these things start all conspiring, and they all start working together. And then you start seeing change where everyone's going, okay, you know what? I need a better option. I'm tired of this. You guys are just making a bunch of money off of us. You're just making merchandise of us. No, I want to be able to flip this around, for whatever the case. And then, yes, maybe not everyone, but will that 5.5 million be 50 million people?
Well, that's my question. I think you need 100 million for it to, move into mainstream. So, yeah. So we'll see. Next is Anonymous Orchid. American blockchain startup Orchid Labs has been developing an anonymous browser since 2017, which could become an alternative to Tor and VPNs. So they talk about how much money they raised. Their main goal is to provide anonymous internet access for people all over the world, especially in regions and countries with excessive government censorship. Again, something like this would be in places in Africa, Middle East, North Korea, etc. Or even places here in the United States where there are people who have differing political philosophy. Okay. But then we have to ask how anonymous is anonymous, And in the United States, yeah, you might get a slap on the hand. In some of these other countries, you may end up in prison for life.
Yes.
Killed.
Yes, I was about to say, yes.
Yeah, so, these companies are taking on quite a bit of liability for these types of things as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Open source Beaker browser is one of the most recent examples of a decentralized browser. It has an open source P2P browser developed in 2018. The goal of the project is to provide the ability to create and host websites directly in the browser. To do this, a local folder should be created and shared through a corresponding URL. Beaker allows visitors to copy their files into local folders that will appear as a torrent. Files will be transported with the P2P network instead of being locked away on the server, so everyone could explore all the files that make up a website or app. I am not sure what the purpose of that is.
Yeah.
Okay. Google and Mozilla. Google is working on a blockchain-based technology aimed at developing and supporting cloud business and a number of other projects, including plans to use blockchain to improve the security of user data storage. However, the company is not in any hurry to share the details regarding its blockchain projects. Mozilla seems to be following in a similar plan. They have a browser. For the moment, their browser supports plugins for privacy and security of users. So they don't have that much going on.
Yeah, I do have something to say, and this did make me think about it with Google. What if Google did it where, okay, your data becomes completely transparent on the blockchain. You can click on it, you can see it, they can see it, they still own it, but you're able to see it and to able to know if something is happening, real time, if it's been tampered with, or if it's been leaked or anything like that. What if they open up that kind of option? I mean, if they were to do that, and just to make that even available to people, I'm not saying people would use it. I'm sure people out of curiosity would do it and check and see, but maybe that it wouldn't be something that they would just, completely, just gravitate towards. But if they did that, then I think they win. I do. I think they win. I think they just solved a lot of maybe some of the issues for, some that people are maybe having, and then they just continue on moving on.
Yeah, I think that, so we always talk about blockchain being trust in a trustless world. And if we got to a point where Google was no longer trusted, or where Google felt it needed to be trusted more, then yes, that would be a great option for them and a viable option. But we do need to look at, again, as business people, we need to look at how much money they would spend, which would probably be billion with a B, to create something like this, right? And really get it out and really educate the consumer on why it's important and what the return on investment would be for them.
Yeah.
I'm not certain it's there. And this is just me being Cherie, business plan writer, looking at it from that point of view. Do I see the benefit to the consumer? Absolutely. Which is why I think something like a Brave does work. If Brave could get 50 million, 100 million people using it. But,
Yeah, I don't know.
Could Google win? Yeah, but, they're winning anyway. And I don't know if that's a game changer for them.
No, but this is how they would eliminate any of those competitors nipping at their heels. But
the competitors aren't nipping at their heels.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so even if Brave got 100 million people, let's think about it. There are 6 billion people on this planet, up to 7 billion people on this planet. 100 million is nothing.
No, I agree.
Nothing.
I agree.
They would be like, ha, yeah, okay.
Yeah. That's
or they would come in and buy Brave if the people from Brave wanted to sell,
Right. And this is just me. Just being a bit of Nostradamus here. I just think that we're trending here where eventually these companies are going to have to be much more transparent, and they're probably going to have to tweak their business models. And this is probably going to be one. I mean, it's continually happening. Jeffrey just posted, where the California Privacy Protection Act, okay, that happens next January of 2020. I just think that these things are happening. So eventually it's the pressure that continues to happen, and then eventually somebody goes, okay. And granted, yes, Google's, they're massive. So yeah, they'll be able to fend it off as well as anyone else could. But eventually they'll say, okay, you know what? Hold on. Let us, we're going to offer you this now.
So the intermediate step for me may be more so Google saying, this is how we're going to enhance security and protecting your data, more so than you owning your internet history.
I agree.
I can see that happening. Yes.
Right.
Perez brought up a good point. He has several points here. All the small browsers started with blockchain a while ago to gain market share for the browsers. They can easily move and adapt to new technologies faster. Very true. They are the entry point to the computers and the phones. So yes, so I said if they set it up where they're the default on the phones, then that makes sense. And then he also says mass adoption has never started with adults. It's also always started with the youth. I think about the Freedom Riders. The Freedom Riders in the 1960s were young people. So you are right about mass adoption starting with the youth. It's going to be interesting because, again, 5.5 million people using Brave is not a lot of people, even for the youth. So you're right. We want to see the youth as, want to see the trends of the youth and see, okay, is this something that is going to catch on? We'll see.
Yeah, here's a question. Can Google be disrupted? Are they too big now that they can never be disrupted? I don't believe that.
I don't know. I don't think that they can never be disrupted. I just am questioning if this is the way they're going to be disrupted.
I think this would be the ideal one. I think if there's one, this would be it.
Is this a blockchain fight? This is a blockchain fight. Good.
Yeah, this would be it to me.
A blockchain fight. No.
Everyone's saying no. We're like, hell no, I won't go. Like, this is it.
Well, you know what? I don't know. All of this is, of course, our opinions. I do think it is good for us to again, some of the things I was saying earlier with regards to some of the political things, some of the things that's happening in our prisons, the community itself, and seeing how Web 3.0 with privacy and with trust and exposure is going to affect the community. You know, that's part of what we do within BBC, is we look at all these things from a Black point of view, a business point of view, the jobs that are going to be available, and, you know, just understanding how we can invest in certain blockchain projects so that we can gain generational wealth, because that is the mission of BBC. So yeah, so we just, you know, this was just a great conversation for us to learn a little bit more. And I will tell you, I looked for all sorts of articles with regards to this. This was one of the harder things for me to really research and find good, valuable information on. So with all due respect to Eric, I think that mass adoption for this, it's going to have some ways to go, because it was hard for me to find good articles with regards to this. That I even Googled, like, Google, I probably should have gone on Brave, but
this is what I mean.
The benefits of a blockchain browser, and I wasn't able to find, you know, any article, because that's usually the types of things I like to look at. Yeah, it was difficult.
Okay, that's funny. That's funny. Is that by design?
I'm not so sure it was by design.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. But
I understand. I'm not sure it was by design. I think that no one's really written the articles, and even, like, you know me, I'm good at reading between the lines in anything. Yeah. And even with me looking at the articles that I found and reading between the lines and seeing the fact that IBM didn't have any quotes for Cointelegraph and Coinbase articles, and, you know, that talked about the patent that they had, I'm like, I'm not sure that this idea, I'm all for privacy and blockchain. Please understand that. I believe in privacy and blockchain, and like we've been talking about the identification, it only shows the bar that I'm 21 years and older, and doesn't show my address, especially as a female, you know, living in the city, things like that. I'm all for that. I think that the law is going to change to accommodate that. But, you know, with this, I couldn't write an article tomorrow saying these are the 5 benefits of blockchain browsers or Web 3.0. Well, I won't say Web 3.0. I'll say the blockchain browsers specifically. I couldn't write that article.
All right, I'm just going to add this point because I know we'll be closing here soon. Okay, yes. And this is just one thing, and I saw this come up in that documentary. And listen, I'm just going to say, art does move things. Always. It's always been that way. And yes, it can be a documentary. Yes, it'll be here today, maybe going tomorrow, maybe. But one slogan that I heard them say over and over again, and I was like, oh, wow, this catches on. And they kept saying, data rights are human rights. And they kept pointing that out over and over again. And you have to think, no one said this 10 or 15 years ago. But if you start making the emotional argument of that, look out. Look out. I mean, I'm just saying that. Look out then. If that begins to really catch fire more and more.
Yeah. Perez is saying he agrees 100%.
Yes.
You might have convinced me with that. But I think you need, this is not political, this is just doing an analogy. I think you need a Bernie Sanders type that is on a major international stage platform saying that.
I agree. Like
catch fire.
See, that's another thing when we start seeing it, because it's not just one, it's when multiple things all begin to work together. And Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, they have both been really on, busting up what they call the tech monopoly. So let's see. Yeah, I
We'll
mean,
see. We'll see. And again, it wasn't to say Bernie Sanders should do it or even, anybody like him or a politician. I was just saying
yeah.
somebody that's on a world stage that has that kind of presence is what
Yeah.
I was saying.
Oh, I agree.
So, yeah, and I just want to make sure the audience understood.
Yeah.
So Perez is saying the fastest growing segment is the esports gaming environment. That's true. I have an esports client right now. It's an ideal market because it crosses all borders, and if one of the top gamers talks about what browser they use, the kids will adopt that app. That's very true as well. Same as the TikTok app. It will be the new Snapchat. Great conversation. I love it. I think we are starting to see that this blockchain segment industry is the new Wild West gold rush of the next decade. That's what we've been saying since last year. I've been telling you all, pick a niche, right? I haven't done my freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year in a while. I don't know if we have new people here, but freshman and sophomore year in the college, you take your general studies. Junior, senior year, you pick a career, you pick a niche, and you go deep with it and you study everything about it. It's time for some of us to start picking niches, careers, and knocking this thing out the park. So yes, Perez, you are absolutely right. And it is still the Wild West.
I agree.
And there's still lots of money to be made. Pick a niche though, and just exploit it. So. All righty then. Well, any final comments? I love it. I'm going to call this blockchain fight.
Yes.
I'm going to have you on one end and me on the other with like the what do you call it? We need the rumble in the jungle. We need Ali versus Frazier.
Yes. That'd be great. Yeah. That's it. I just see we're in the middle. And sometimes when you're in the middle of change, truly transformative macro change, it's hard to kind of see everything. But to me, we can start identifying and seeing points that are happening. And we start seeing conversations that are happening. And to me, those are the things that we pay attention to because I believe they're going to lead us to what we're going to see, a completely different internet experience in the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, that's just what I believe. So, this is my take on it.
You know what? And all we can do is continue to stay in the trenches and read the articles and stay connected with each other. I want to remind everybody that Atlanta 2020 conference, Black Wealth and Blockchain, is happening on February 16th and 17th. That's a Sunday and Monday, 2020. From now until the end of September, we are asking 50 people to pledge $150 so that we can reserve the room. Once you pay that $150, and that gets you in for both days, we won't ask you for any more money, and you'll get breakfast and lunch on Monday the 17th with that. We're still pulling together our plans. However, on Sunday, we are going to tokenize an asset and people will be able to participate. We decided we're going to do a piece of Black art and tokenize it. And then people will be able to buy a piece of that. And we're also going to talk about ways that we can participate in the tokenization economy and do it as consumers as well as starting businesses around that. So we know that that's what we're doing for Sunday. For Monday, the team and group are still working on what that theme is going to be, but whatever it is, it's really going to be good. I promise you that. So, and then we also have our virtual conference coming up November, is it 14th?
Yes.
November 14th. The topic is 21st century business fundraising. Not only going to talk about tokenization of assets, but we're also going to talk about the opportunity zones and the Jobs Act and crowdfunding and ways that we, over the next 5 years as Black people, can get ahead of being able to raise funds. We're always last when it comes to this stuff. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have some great people coming on to talk about what we need to know so that we can take advantage of these laws And you all know my saying, if I can get 10,000 people to get $100 each, to, $100 each to a business, that's $1 million. We could start funding our own tech companies with $100 per person, and it's $100 that most of us wouldn't even miss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't lead it because I've just got too much on my plate. But if somebody ever wants to lead that, I believe that you would have people who would want to see that happen as well. So thank you so much to everybody for sticking with us. Jeffrey is saying, great job, made my trip on Cali 5 South bearable.
Oh, good.
Anything that says California and trip home, I know there's a lot of traffic. So glad, Jeffrey. Perez, blockchain rumble on the net. Yeah, I'm telling you, we're going to get Frazier versus Ali on here. All righty then. Well, thank you so much, Eric, for being my +1 panelist tonight. Really appreciate you.
It's great.
And I want to tell everybody we may end up switching the times on this because some of our other panelists have they have a standing meeting. So we may end up switching the times. We'll see though, and we'll let everybody know. All right then. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Sheree. See ya.